I'm Linda Monica Eisenberg, a lifetime arts trainer, and today I'm here with Raina Santos, and we're going to be talking about envisioning creative aging curriculum. So welcome, Raina. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Linda. It's wonderful to be here.
So let's talk about the process that you use for planning your curriculum. So when you're thinking about a class that you'd like to offer, what are the things that you consider?
Well, the first thing I like to consider is the level of the class. Does the center want a beginner or intermediate level course? This helps me plan the material to cover in class. Then after that, I like to think about the goal of the class. What skills do I want my students to walk away with by the end of our meetings? I also like to consider the time frame of the class. How many weeks or month are we going to meet? This lets me gauge the pace of the class and what we should cover during the class. The thing that I love to plan first, which I think is incredibly important, is I like to plan out the weekly topics. I also like to sequence these topics so they naturally build on each other week by week.
When you're starting those first steps between envisioning that program and writing the curriculum, what does that look like?
My first steps is always trying to understand the community that I will be teaching in. What are their specific needs and wants, what their interests are in, what they want to learn most. It's important to be sensitive about the environment you're going to go into and understanding that each community is unique and is important to incorporate that into whatever you're going to be teaching.
And how, I'm really curious about that. How do you do that, Raina?
I like to go into the center as much as I can before I begin any type of program. I like to get to know the center director, which is an incredible, important relationship to build. I also like to get to know the staff. And more importantly, I like to just hang out at the center and get to know the participants and get to know all the members at the center. And by being able to spend time there, this is before you teach, you're able to really understand the type of center that you're really walking into. Is it a busy center? Is it a more quiet center? What type of activities do they really like to do? And in these kind of time that you spend, you really are beginning to understand the type of people that go to the center. And in understanding that, it really helps you to cultivate, hopefully, a class that is responsive to those people, to their culture, and more specifically to the needs, their artistic needs of what they want to get out of the class.
As you get that curriculum put together and you're deciding it's ready to go, do you have anybody review that or take a look at it before you start?
Well, I think it is very, very important for someone to review your curriculum before you start your class, especially someone who is experienced in teaching these types of programs. And the kind of feedback that I find most helpful in shaping my classes is on how much content to cover per class, especially if you are teaching remote, understanding that the content you teach will take longer to do online than in person. So this may mean you can't cover as much as you may want to in one class, but it is key in balancing your class time, and making sure that you allow for not just social engagement, but practice of the skill you are trying to teach your students. But it's very, very important to have someone, either a teaching artist or, maybe, someone you're working with within the program to review your curriculum before you begin class.
I really like that idea of not only working with people that are connected to the organizations to get that kind of feedback, but also to bounce your ideas off another teaching artist. I'm also curious about this idea of flexibility. So you talked about flexibility a moment ago. Things always are not quite what we expect them from week to week and any time we teach. So I'm curious how you plan your curriculum around these unknowns.
First, I like to set a preferred number of students in a class with a center director to ensure that we have a good number of participants in class. It's also important to have the support of the center when it comes to encouraging consistent attendance by students. I shape my curriculum where new skills are introduced each class, but I also allow for a period of review of the previous things we have learned during class. This lets students review what they've learned, but also allow for students who've missed a class to catch up as well. I also always plan office hours, and this is where students can attend and ask any question they have about the class or the material. This also creates a time where students know they can come and get help and support, especially if they've missed a class.